Hey, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world, and welcome back to the Rebel Reject Create video podcast here on YouTube. My guest here today is Mr. Gary Ware, who's the founder of Breakthrough Play, as well as a corporate facilitator, keynote speaker, certified coach, and self-proclaimed creative catalyst. We're going to get into that. He's also spent years performing in improv theater and is now the author of a book. So welcome, Gary. Nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I am so excited to be on the show. Let's
Yay.
get into it.
All right, cool. You know, whenever I speak to people who are involved with play, I have one question I always want to see if there's an answer to is where does play stop and creativity start, or the other way around? Where does creativity stop and where does play start?
Ooh, we're starting with the tough questions.
Let's just
Yeah,
get right into it.
I feel like it's this symbiotic relationship
Hmm,
between play and creativity where and I'm still trying to figure out which one is the catalyst.
hmm,
Is creativity the catalyst where you get this creative spark that sends you into a play-like state, which brings out more creativity, which brings in more play. So that's what I'm thinking. Just
hmm.
again from my experience, I feel like sometimes I get this creative idea and then I want to execute on it. And then how I execute it on it is through playful actions. And through
Right,
those playful actions, I start to become more creative.
right. Yeah, it's not a linear relationship essentially. It's kind of like an open-ended system where the one like the snake biting its tail.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
what I think, anyways.
Yeah, no one's been able to answer that question effectively. I think it is an extremely hard one to get unraveled. How did you get started in improv? What was going on there?
Yeah. Well, the technical answer is, and it's funny as I'm saying this, it seems very counterintuitive, um, especially diving into improv, but it was to further my personal development. I wanted to be a better public speaker.
Oh,
I wanted to be better at leadership, and a mentor of mine said, "Hey, I think you should take an improv class. You might get a lot out of it." Again, no theater background prior to this,
mm,
didn't consider myself a stand-up comedian or a sketch writer or any of the sort, and I was incredibly afraid. However, when I heard that, oh, it can help you make more money and be better at your job, I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And then to my surprise, I found out that it was play. And so again, that was that creative idea which led me down the path of improv, which turned into a lot of play.
okay, interesting. And what is it about improv that is so powerful for you?
Yeah. So this is one of the things for you watching, listening, wherever you are. Most people, when they think about improv, if they don't have experience with it, they just think about the output of improv, being on the stage, getting a prompt, and having to tell, a story or create something out of thin air. Very terrifying for a lot of people,
Yeah,
and it makes sense why most people are like, that's not for me. This is the thing. To be able to do that, to be able to get on a stage with your cast, fellow ensemble, and to co-create a story in real time, it takes a lot of training. And the training of improv is a lot of these silly games that remind me of recess and things that we did at camp and whatnot. But what it does, because I have this belief that how you play anything is how you do everything. So if you're playing a game that is inviting you to think on your feet,
hmm,
inviting you to be vulnerable, is going to condition your body to be able to do that when the stakes are higher. And so that's what I love about improv is that it's low stakes games and training that will have an impact on you when you actually need it most.
that is an explanation I've not heard before. I like that. I mean, in a weird way, that immediately makes me think of sport. Like a footballer spends hours dribbling, kicking, slow stakes stuff. It's not particularly complicated, but because they do it so much, when the pressure's on, when the moment's hot, like stuff just starts to happen.
Right? Yeah. Yeah,
Huh.
that's exactly it. So that we can condition our muscles to respond
Right.
And yeah, and so that's essentially what we do with improv, and it helps you perform on the stage, or the stage of life, as I like to say.
Right, right. And so you're obviously a really creative guy. I mean, apart from the improv stuff, you've now also written a book and you do all this coaching and stuff. Do you have a process? I mean, how do you go from light bulb moment idea to, I don't know, book, performance piece or whatever it ends up being?
Yeah. So as far as the process, I think I like to, since I'm a quote unquote play person, I like to use play as an acronym. And so it's more like a framework that allows you to, be your authentic self. So the P in play is psychological safety.
Hmm.
If you want to be able to create, with abandon and take bold risks, you have to feel psychological safety. If you feel like, oh no, I'm gonna be judged and stuff like that, you can't truly be creative, because you're gonna play it safe. You're going to like think about, all right, what do I need to say so I can get this right? So psychological safety is the bedrock, is the foundation of all of that.
Yeah.
And then A in play is being able to be adaptive. And so again, creativity is all about taking some sort of concept and idea and moving with it. And it's not going to be great at first. You have to be willing to get messy.
Mhm.
So that's the A. The L is listening. So if you're co-creating with other people,
Mhm.
listening to other people's suggestions, listening to yourself, listening to that little voice in your head that is saying, hey, how about you do this? So deep listening is important. And then the why comes from my experience in improv, and this is yes and. How can you accept and build? Again, that is how we create. If you think about, like, let's start with a little thought, and what does that make us think of, and then we build on that little by little. Before long, you'll have something that is pretty impressive. However, if you try to go in the beginning, and when I'm teaching improv, I say, bring a brick, not a cathedral. Don't try to bring a
Mm.
fully formed idea. Bring just a little something to the party, and then bring something on top of that. And again, that makes it a little less daunting. So that is, sort of my framework for creativity. And again, creativity is messy. Creativity is not perfect. I like to say you need to come from a place of non-judgment awareness, and be delighted with what you create.
I like that. I like that a lot. I mean, I say a number of those things in pretty different words, but the essence is exactly the same. I call but the idea killer. Yes, but.
Agreed.
Yeah, yeah. So, wow. Play then. How important is it right now and why?
Play, in my opinion, is essential for growth. It's essential for our well-being. In the book Play by Dr. Stuart Brown, he mentions that most adults are suffering from play deprivation, in that we are not allowing ourselves to play because, for whatever reason, maybe we don't think that we're worthy of it, we don't have time for it, and because our body is wired for play. We are neotenous creatures. Neotenous creatures, what that means is we retain our juvenile features into adulthood. So those things that helped us get to where we are, we still need them. And I'm just going to use that word again, symbiotic relationship between love, work, and play is the missing link. Um,
Mm.
However, we, have this connotation that play is just for kids, and we don't engage in it. But if you think about an activity that you do for the sake of doing it, and what you create with that, a lot of magical stuff happens. If, again, we are going back to, footballers. Again, yes, the sport is very competitive, but they don't take themselves seriously, and that
Mm.
allows them to be like in the moment, and being able to bob and weave and respond with such pinpoint accuracy is like ridiculous. Take musicians that
Mm.
are playing. There was a gentleman, his name is Charles Lamb. He did a study on jazz musicians, put them into an MRI machine, and he had them
Yeah.
play sheet music, and then he had them play improvise. And he found that when they improvised, it turned off the judgment center of the brain and allowed them to be creative. Again, they are just playing. You can take, some like neuroscientists, you can take astrophysicists or whatever, like they're in their work, but to them it's play. And so that's again why it's important to see play as an asset rather than a liability.
Right. But work is deadly serious, Gary. How can we play?
Of course, work is deadly serious, but you don't. So I like to talk about playfulness and playing. Playfulness is, embracing the work as, something that you want to do that is enjoyable. And I think it was a wise person that said, "For every job that must be done, you had a bit of fun, and snap, the job's a game." I think that was Mary Poppins that said that. But you're absolutely right. We're in a very serious time, and some of this work is very serious. You take a surgeon, for example. Yes, you would want that surgeon to be serious, especially
Yeah.
if they're operating on you. However, if they're too uptight, they can't operate and do the things that is necessary. And maybe if they're too uptight and they're not willing to like adjust, they might come across a situation that they've never experienced before. And that could, them adapting or improvising could be the difference between life and death. And so again, coming with the playful spirit allows you to get into a state of flow.
Nice. If you're watching this interview and enjoying the conversation, please do hit the like button. And if you really like it and want to see more of this kind of thing, hit the subscribe button. This is one of just a series. You'll see a whole bunch of other videos here. And if you know someone who you think should be interviewed, drop a message in the comments. That'll be great. And while you're about it, if you've got any questions for Gary or me, put those in the comments as well. We'll definitely do our best to respond to them. Now, you mentioned the word flow there. This comes up an awful lot when I talk about creativity with people. Are you a Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi flow guy, or are you another kind of flow guy?
Nope, he is the guy. And it was interesting as I was reading his book
Hmm.
Flow, and he was defining what flow was and what a flow state was. So many parallels to play.
Yeah.
Again, thinking about something that you're doing just for the sake of doing it. You're being challenged just enough. Time goes by like this. It's play.
Yeah. It's funny. There's a whole bunch of words where they're describing totally different things, but what they have in common is this state, this mind state, measurable brain state, where the judgment wheels have been taken off, and you're just free connecting and going for it. And it is challenging, isn't it? I mean, I think that's a big preconception that people have about play and about creativity, is that like, well, it's easy. It's you're just messing around. Is that true?
You are. This is the interesting thing. Messing around. What does that mean? And so I want to look at it like this. What is your outcome? Is your outcome to do very rudimentary tactical work? Well, in that case, you probably should follow procedure. Do it exactly as told. No going outside of no coloring outside the lines.
Yeah.
However, if your end goal is to do creative work, is to look at things from a new perspective, to solve problems that has never been solved before, well, you need creativity, you need play, and you need to be able to see the world through a lens where anything is possible. And that's where that childlike wonder comes in. That's where that curiosity comes in, and that can only happen with a play-like mindset. Like when you are turning off the judgment centers of your brain and you're open to possibility. In the book Primed to Perform by Neo Dosey and Lindsay McGregor, they talked about essentially they're talking about motivation, and they say in this day and age we need to optimize our teams. Instead of being tactical, it's for creativity. And in order to do that, you need to tap into the intrinsic motivators, which is play, purpose, and potential. Play was the number one thing that they said. And to them, play is when you approach your work, you see challenges as a good thing, something to overcome.
Wow. I'm just hearing echoes of Carol Dweck here.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah,
Growth
it's
mindset. Just
growth mindset. Yep.
Not, I can't do this, I'm not that kind of person, this is never going to work. Like, hey, how do other people do this? I'm going to figure this out.
Yeah, and that's again, comes from having a playful mindset. Because again, think about anything that you've played, whether it's a team sport, a solo sport, video game, board game, whatever the case may be. When you're playing, and I'm laughing because it's funny to think about this, but it's true. But it allows you to set all of your beliefs aside for the unknown. Take for example golf. Golf is a very interesting game where the rule is you hit a ball, small ball, with a club in the hopes of getting it into a hole, 300 and something yards away. That is not an efficient way of getting the ball from point A to point B. However, you set aside all sort of rules and beliefs for the rules of the game, and you freely, and the word freely is a big one, you freely engage in this. And from that, allow yourself to be creative, and you get yourself out of situations. But again, that makes no sense whatsoever. Like, if we're trying to be logical, that is not a logical way to do it, but yet we do it anyway.
Yeah. And how many times do we fail along the way? And yet we keep on coming back. It's just,
Yes.
so that's what really intrigues me so much about this play game thing. It's like gamers probably fail more than anybody on the planet.
Agreed.
And yet they keep on gaming.
Yes. And look at footballers, for example. Like, at the end of a match is usually, if you're lucky, maybe it's 2-1, or like, it's probably like 1-0 or 1-1, something like that. How many shots should they take? They take so many shots, and they don't just like, oh, missed the goal. Oh well, they just keep at it. They're like, all right, how else can we go about? Again, imagine if we took that mindset and we applied it to our work.
How do we do that? Because that's the key, isn't it? How do we get more people to think like that?
So the first thing, and this goes back to and why I titled it Playful Rebellion, is we do need to rebel. We have to rebel against the status quo. We have to rebel against our conditioning. We have been conditioned to see work, like what I said, very tactical.
Yeah.
There's only one way of doing things. And it's so, to prove that point, I'm going to try something right here with you. I'm going to do a riddle. You'll probably get it right. You might get it right. I don't know. It's just like a sort of thought experiment. And you just do whatever you think. So Fred and Mark were born at the same hospital, at the same day, at the same time, to the same mother, but they're not twins. How can this be?
Different years. You didn't say the same year.
Forgive me. Same year. Same year.
But they're not twins.
Yeah, how can this be?
Oh, I'm so bad at riddles. IVF? Same
That's
hospital.
Brunk. But yeah, same hospital.
Same time.
Yes. Same time.
Same day.
Same mother.
Same mother. Same mother. I don't know. I'm really crap at
It's
riddles.
because, no, don't even worry about it. It's because they're triplets.
Oh.
It's so again, I set you up in this trap. Like, most of these riddles, like, they prime our brains to be overconfident, and then, but they, like, I set it up so that you are looking very tunnel vision. And again, that is what our schooling does. It teaches us that there's only one right answer. So you are like, oh, twins. It has to be twins. And when I'm like, no, it's not twins, you're like, how is this not? What are you talking about? And we know what triplets are. We've heard of triplets. However, our brain, because of our conditioning, is forcing us to do that. And so the rebellion part is to rebel against how we have been conditioned to, instead of seeing the world as a proving ground, where we have to prove that we're worthy, we have to prove that this is the right answer. And when you see the world through that lens, you see people as competitors. You see, like, one answer. But imagine if you can see the world through the lens of a playground. Then you see people as playmates. You see them as collaborators. And you see these obstacles as, a fun challenge to overcome. And it's not about getting it right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is where the rebellion comes from, of, sort of throwing out the old way of doing things, because it's not sustainable. See the world as a proving ground, leads to burnout, which, leads to health issues. Don't get me wrong, like I'm still trying to figure this out myself. Uh, you know, I from time to time go back to that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there we go. Is our old outdated thinking.
Yeah.
Um, However, every time I sort of catch myself and then I engage in a playful act, then it starts to, again, that's where sort of the creativity starts to come. All right, I do something playful.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm starting to get the juices flowing. Now I jump into creativity, and I'm like, all right, cool. All right, we're good,
Yeah.
which makes me want to play again. So,
Right.
anyways,
So, I mean, this is all in your book, The Playful Rebellion.
yes.
And where is that available now?
Yeah, you could, on my website, you can go to playfulrebellion.com, or on my website, Breakthrough Play. It's on Amazon across the world. You can get a Kindle version, you can get a paperback. As of this recording in July of 2022, it is available for pre-order. It officially comes out September 13th of 2022. I'm super excited about that. Yeah, I say it's just the beginning. I spent a long time sort of accumulating all of my knowledge and whatnot and putting it into this. And, just like all creative pursuits, you have to sort of set it free. And in that moment that I sort of like had to like button it up, I'm like, ooh, but what about this? And so,
Book
you
two
know,
is already being written, you mean?
right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
many
Cool.
additions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why you're on the Rebel, Reject, Create podcast, right?
Yep.
All right, Gary, it's been amazing talking to you. And for everyone who likes the sound of that book, all the links are here in the show notes underneath this video. Um, Someone sees you doing improv, they know you're an author. They come up to you and they're like, Gary, you're so creative, man. You're only allowed to tell them one thing. What one thing do you say to someone to help them tap into their creativity better?
I can tell them one thing, right? Uh, do something that brings you joy.
Nice. Nice. I love asking that question. It's different answers every single time. That's very cool. Gary, thank you for making time to come and chat to me today. It's been awesome having you on the show, man.
Yeah, thank you so much, David. This has been my such a treat.
Cool. And if you've enjoyed the conversation, again, please don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe button. If you've got any questions, drop them into the comments underneath, and Gary and I will be checking in to see what you found interesting and what you've got to say for yourself. So, Gary, once more, thanks a lot.
My pleasure.